the teaching, man, I was just sitting there listening to it like, hey, I finally figured out a way to share, all the stuff I would come over and get. And it's like, man, I just got handed the biggest, thickest, most beautiful prime ribeye steak in the world. And but I could never, have the recall to share it. Right. It's like it was being seeded in me and growing fruit, but to have it, or at my disposal.
Right. Because
wow.
Just revelations disappear.
And you get a new one,
really,
even though you're saying the same thing. Yeah.
They can, unless you get them written down or recorded or something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get them so well you hang on to them, but sometimes that takes 3 or 4 times or more, and then you go, oh, because you kind of lose the premise. Yeah. But the main thing is it all stems from God's love. And that's, if you see it as a framework starting from God's love, and everything is a subset of God's love, then it's kind of easier to, for me anyway, to categorize and to remember it, because in this framework, so grace is about love. If it doesn't have love in it, then it's not grace.
Yeah.
If it's honoring, if you're doing it to get something, then well, that's not love. You think it's love, but it's not. Morality, and that's a big one. Everybody goes after morality, but if you're not doing it and loving people, you've missed a boat. You think you are, and it's a good thing. I mean, to be moral, is a really good thing, but you're not helping the other person. You might be not doing all these bad things, but you're actually not doing good.
Right.
Just because you don't commit adultery doesn't mean that you've actually helped anyone around you. And so, and that's what God does. Papa's just so amazingly loving. I mean, he has his boundaries. Trying to go up there and manipulate him and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't work. He understands that.
So you brought something up that just a light bulb went off on me, because I'm taking neuroscience right now.
Okay.
Side of psychology, right? And it's interesting that you've always taught me, and you're the one who brought me into this relationship type of deeper walk or intimacy with God, right, where you share these things, and then God mentioned to me, pour out intimacy as relational. And so I've carried the message of intimacy with God. The thing about neuroscience that's so interesting is, you got a child and they're making this connection that is reciprocal. It's going back and forth. When you look at bringing someone into the kingdom, instead of linear or horizontal, linear, you're going vertical, and it's almost like once that connection is in place, now when you're speaking to someone, like maybe you're a psychologist and they don't want to go there with God. They don't want to. So you're kind of limited to morals, ethics, principles. Right. But you brought up a great, point that if you include love in it, you don't have to say the love of God. You don't have to. God is love. Right. So in a way, you're kind of sharing God without saying who it is or what it is. Right. It's an interesting point, because, I thought, that's almost like to sit there and be limited and say, well, the advantages of morals and blah, blah, blah is a clear conscience, peace in your life,
Right.
blah, 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 and hope that you can, I guess, sell them into that kind of paradigm or that kind of setting.
Right.
But when you add love to it, it probably should go first and be the foundation of. So,
Well, it depends on the person. Okay, what is their prime? This sounds Star Trek-y. Prime directive. Which is, for lack of a better word, what is their focus? What makes them tick? Okay, and so sometimes if you can find what makes a person tick, how their personality is set up, then you find what they're after. Okay, like I love mysteries, spiritual mysteries. I love knowledge. I love wisdom. I love adventuring. So I'm this explorer type. And that really, and so in that, I know that, I'm different from others. You know, everybody's got their own calling. Okay? Some people, they're wealth-based, and that's okay. Wealth-based can be great. Okay, so you find what you don't try to change the house of somebody's their personality. You don't try to change that. You try to see what is it, and then build a steeple on it. Okay, so if they're an evangelist, you don't try to make them a pastor. And so you can incorporate that with the evangelism, turn around, and that might not work as well in psychology, if you're dealing, because people don't know what their calling is, but you can find, they're an
spiritual
artist.
gifting.
Yeah.
So do you think it would help to do like a spiritual gifting test?
Well,
or at least
not spiritual gifting, but find out where they find joy.
Okay.
Because God's about joy. I mean, He's about a lot of things, but joy is when you fall in love, you have great joy.
Yeah.
So He likes joy. Because people are happy, they're fulfilled, they're succeeding. And so when you find their joy, what makes them tick? It's like food for the soul for them.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just artwork, and they just flourish.
Yeah.
But then you go, and you start building on that principle and start adding principles to that, connecting these principles to their main focus. It's like the spear tip. Okay, that's what's directing them. And so they're following this path, the spear tip, following where it goes. But if you can incorporate love and grace and all these beautiful things, then they get depth in their artwork.
Wow.
So it's not incorporating all these things into a person because we like them or they're actually good. It's what is going to fulfill their life. What is the fulfillment of their life? And when people are full and they're getting joy from, let's say, artwork, we'll just use artists for this, then they don't need to steal. They have value because they're a great artist. They might not even be a good artist, but it fulfills that in them. They don't need to steal because that fulfills them. That's their feast. Okay? And then you start adding these up. You say, okay. So do you like when somebody gives you a painting? Oh, yeah, I love people's paintings. I hang them on the wall. And so, you like that. So do that for others. And that starts to, if you like these people, hey, give them a painting. Do a painting for them, somebody else, and that fulfills love. And so you teach them, then you can start defining what love is by going, oh, hey, it has boundaries. Oh, it's not just, a lot of Christians get this during a certain point in their walk. They think, oh, I need to love other people, so that means being a doormat. Give to everyone who asks you, type thing. And so that gets taught into them. But a lot of times it's just pastors walking over them.
Yeah.
They're trying to open this crack in their armor to get whatever they need to. So when they ask for tithe, or they ask for this, or they ask for help doing this or that and that, they just have to do it. But we find that Jesus wasn't that way. He was following that spear point, was doing the will of God. What was he hearing from God? What was God telling him? And that was his joy, to do the will of God. Yeah. Also, it says that he rejoiced in the fear of the Lord, and that was another one of his main focuses that brought him joy.
To reverence the Father.
Right. And so when you find those aspects of people, then you can start giving them focus. Oh, wait, that's good. And then you could start adding these other little pieces. Sometimes we don't have terminologies. We say words like grace and, mercy and faith, but they're not defined really well. So grace for me is free love gifts. And so when I see grace, I see, free love gifts. It's a way of exchange between family members. You give something freely. You don't expect anything in return. There's not a barter system. It's just because out of joy,
you give.
You give.